Hey, what's up, YouTube? I am Frogman Lauger. Got another episode of the Frogman's Finance coming at you. Got a little smaller video. Did do a few trades, mostly out of the Iowa, all out of the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation. Little update. I've got I had 178 games in the collection. I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 138, 36, something like that left of the games I had previously owned that I'm trying to reacquire. Goal, as always, is the complete set, all CIB. I guess first off, I made a purchase. I mentioned in one of my previous videos I had done a 3-part deal with a guy out of the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation by the name of Jason. And I was supposed to pick up the second part of that deal a couple of weeks ago. Had a couple things come up, and I said, hey, you care if we push it off 2 weeks and I pay you, for both? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. He goes, I understand, stuff happens. And met up with him, picked up the other 2 games out of the deal, really happy with it. First off, I got Final Fantasy, just the cartridge. I have the instruction booklet and map to go with it. Still need the box to complete that one. Really excited about that one. And one I have never actually, I hadn't even seen. And when he offered it to me, I jumped on it. It was Felix the Cat. Kind of not an overly expensive game, but more expensive than a lot of times my budget would allow, which is why this deal was such a good thing for me. So, thank you, Jason. Those are going in my collection. Then I went down. I had made a deal. Don't have it to show. I found a copy of Luigi's Mansion. It was just case and game for GameCube. And I had picked it up. And I've been working on a deal with a guy out of the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation by the name of Nick. And he had a couple of games. He's like, hey, do you need these 2? I'm like, definitely. And he's like, well, cash is always king, but if you find something, maybe we can work out a deal. Well, I found the copy of that, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, GameCube is not something he normally is into, but why not? I'll throw it out there, see if he's interested. And he was. So we were talking, and he'd said he had some other games, and he shot me a really good price for the rest of them. So I picked up a couple that I needed for my collection. I got a few here that I'm going to trade, or attempt to trade, so I was really happy with the whole deal. First off, I'll go with the ones that are going into my collection, and those are Uncanny X-Men, also one I have never had seen anywhere available for purchase. I've seen it in a couple, people's cases and things like that for their own private collection. And then Bart Simpson versus the Space Mutants. Never really had a chance when I was a kid to play the Bart Simpson games. Kind of excited to try it to see what it's really like. But those are going in my collection. The rest of these from Nick are available if somebody's interested. Copy of Silent Service, Monopoly, Dr. Mario, the original, or not the original, but just Punch-Out. The original is, of course, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And it was switched to Punch-Out after their agreement fell through. It's effectively the same game. I think they might have renamed a couple people, and the big thing is they renamed the final fight. You don't fight Mike Tyson in this version. You fight Mr. Dream. same tactics, same fight, different name because they couldn't call him Mike Tyson anymore without his approval, of course. This one actually, just this morning, got traded to a gentleman in another group. The fruits of that trade will be in a future video. And lastly, Skate or Die. Like I said, all of these are doubles, but he shot me a really good price on the lot. Along with the trade combination worked out really, really well. So I'm really excited about that. Kind of glad to have a little bit of cushion for trade stuff now again. So thank you, Nick. And finally, also made another trade with a guy that also does YouTube videos. His channel is Musty Hobbit. That's the name he goes by. He's kind of been my go-to Xbox guy. And was at my local Goodwill. And again, I don't happen to have them here. Time had gotten away from me and I didn't get a chance to record between picking up some stuff and making the trade. But I was at my local Goodwill and I had found some Xbox games. And I'm sure I looked kind of silly sitting there, but I was flipping through them and messaging him game by game, basically, or, you know, a few games at a time. Hey, do you need this one or this one? And then I'd look through a few more, you know, game cases and find a couple more and a couple more. And originally had found 6 that he was interested in, and I can't remember all of the titles. I know there was a Tony Hawk's Underground, I think a Ford Racing, and a few others that I can't remember right now. I'm sure they'll be in one of his next pickup videos. Then I was over at another Goodwill kind of close to me, and had just almost on pure luck, had stumbled into The Cat in the Hat and Shrek 2, I believe, for Xbox. Both complete. They weren't even anywhere near the games. They were just kind of sitting on a shelf by the computers, of all things. And I messaged him quick. I'm like, hey, do you need those? He's like, yeah, sure, if the price is right. And I'm like, okay. So I picked them up, and we came to a deal. And we hadn't even come to a deal yet. And just yesterday, he had messaged me. He was on his way through Des Moines, which is about 40 minutes or so away. And he had said that, you know, hey, I'm coming through. Do you want to do this trade? He goes, here's a couple things I was thinking of. And it happened to be a couple things I needed. And I'm like, sure. The little bit of gas I'd spend was going to be a lot less than what I'd pay in shipping. And he'd end up saving shipping as well. So I met up and got a couple games here. I picked up The Empire Strikes Back. Have never actually played this one. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Kind of excited for is it Christmas when the next movie comes out. But always have a soft spot for the original 3. So I'm really excited about that. I want to give it a shot. And then The Little Mermaid. I have played it. I have beaten it. It's kind of cheesy. But it's kind of fun. It was actually more challenging than I thought it maybe could have been. But it was kind of fun. And that knocked off a few off of my list of games I used to own as well. Not quite sure where that list is. This should bring me up to 184 games in my collection. With a few extras here to trade. Before I cut out the video, I'm going to throw a little bit of advice out there. You know, as I mentioned before, about not just finding a group, but finding a trade partner, I guess, is some good advice. I know Musty Hobbit and I have traded, I don't know how many times. I think this is 6 or 7, something like that. You get into a habit with people. You kind of know what they're looking for. Like I know the 8-bit leprechaun is another name I've thrown out there. If I find just loose N64 controllers, he's usually looking for some to go with some consoles. I know he said he's always looking for those because he never seems to have enough good controllers to go with systems when he wants to trade them or whatever. With Musty Hobbit, it's Xbox games. If I find them, like at Goodwill or even garage sales sometimes, I won't even look up the values necessarily. I'll just message him, say, hey, do you need these? And depending on his responses, either I'll pick them up or I won't. Sometimes I'll pick them up specifically to trade. Other times, he's like, hey, no, but that's a really good game, value-wise. So that's kind of what my advice there is, picking a trade partner. That way, you always got somebody potentially to trade with. And you start, like I said, developing people's, a feel for people's tastes. Like I know there's another guy out of the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation. Tim, he's always looking for N64 stuff. So there's just another potential for, hey, I found some stuff, are you interested? And maybe you get it traded before you even buy it. But that's basically what I got. Until next time.